webinar for RoadEng bridge site design. It's going to be bridge site design. We're going to be using two modules within RoadEng software, the train module and the location module. There are 4 steps we're going to be taking. We're going to be using templates in the location module, and then we will be exporting that to the train module where we will be grading our bridge abutments. And finally, we will merge that into the original ground. For this webinar, we will be using LiDAR information, so we won't be covering any survey reduction. I can see your screen.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to start off by opening up our location module. And now I've already created this road design. So let me just open it in the middle here. But as Farshid mentioned, we're working with LiDAR data this time. So the survey in the background is some LiDAR data kindly provided by the Ministry of Forests, Lands and Range here in BC. And they had planned to put a road in this general area. So I'm going to take advantage of their thoughtfulness in finding a good bridge crossing and put my own road in there. So this is just a fairly standard location design. I've laid in a horizontal alignment. I put in a vertical alignment. I put my bridge in. Generally, the hardest thing about putting in a bridge is figuring out where the abutments go. And I decided I would go from 140 to 180 along my alignment. It starts up here at 0. And I did that by assigning templates. So let's just do that quickly. Assign by range, templates, and here's all the bridges I have available. I picked just the default bridge template that comes with the software, and I typed in my station range and click on Add Edit, and that's the result. So the default bridge template that comes with the software will automatically generate these bridge abutment lines. Notice that they are vertical, and those are turned on in the profile window if you have the bridge symbols turned on here. You can change their line type and color if you want, but they're just a quick way of showing you where you put the bridge. Now, you can do more than that. If I click in this zone and look at my cross-section, it's empty. There's nothing there. Well, it's good that there's no cuts and fills because it's a bridge, right? So we would expect that. What if I wanted to see something a little more realistic? Well, it turns out that you can create a template that has no cuts and fills. So let's go into the template editor. And here are a couple of bridge templates that I've created. I can go through the process, but essentially, well, I think I'll skip that. Essentially, the way to do this is to get some things from the e-library. Here's some bridge components. I've already got it in, so it's going to write over it. And I look at those bridge components, and you can see them on the right-hand side here. As I select them, this is a very simple rectangular bridge component. This one has a log stringer, so you can build your classic logging road bridge. Here's one that has kind of a trapezoidal, probably steel beam. Here's another one that is similar, and here's another one that has a little sidewalk and curb built into it. So these components are available to you. They're in the e-library, and all I did to make my custom bridges, and I made 2 of them, was to attach a couple of those components. So this one I put in the bridge deck 1. I modified its properties to be reasonable for my design. And in addition, I threw in a barrier on each side. This is bridge number 2. For that one, I used bridge 5 component. I modified the shape to suit my design. I actually took out the little curved thing and instead put in a guardrail component, which came from my walls and barriers e-library. There it is, guardrail. So you can modify that to suit. Right, so what's special about these bridge templates? Well, the first thing is that I created them from these library components, and all of these library components do not have fill. There's no subgrade layer under here that is filling down to the ground. That's important. The other thing that's important for a bridge template is that you disable clearing and stripping underneath the bridge. You don't want any stripping volumes being generated in the bottom of the river. That's about it. Include volumes here has been turned on. That's okay, because all it's going to do is generate the volumes for the bridge cross section. It's not going to generate volume underneath the bridge. I could turn that off if I wanted to. It's not going to make a big difference. You may not care about the volume of steel in the bottom, so that would just turn that off. Okay, now let's see what that looks like. I've added that. I haven't added that component yet. Let's add it. So I'm going to replace my bridge component, the default, with bridge number 2. Click on Add Edit. I didn't have to type in the station numbers, because every time you click on the list here, it updates those station numbers, and then you can just choose what you want. Click Add Edit. Okay, recalculate, and there is my bridge template. Notice that I turned off any superelevation, so it's flat, and that's good. Except it turns out that in my plan window here, I have a curve that comes up really close to the bridge. So right there, you can see the cross section does have superelevation. And now, if I just go a couple of more stations, there it's still superelevating. It says it's got 3.8% superelevation, and boom, we're onto the bridge, which has no superelevation. Okay, this is a problem. How do we deal with it? So the trick is to override the superelevation in that zone. And this is a fairly common problem with bridges, but it can be a problem in all kinds of different situations, like a road intersection. The curve is automatically generating superelevation. And let's just go to that particular curve. Here it is. It's pulling the superelevation out of a table, and so it's coming up at 6%. And it's transitioning, but before it gets to the bridge, it hasn't finished its transition. It's still got some superelevation at that point. Here's the fix. We go into the home ribbon assigned by range, overrides. And I want to override super left and right. I'm just going to do, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open the design where I've already done the left, and then I'll show you the right. So let's open this one. I just learned something new, too. The bridge abutments are not displayed unless you go into the template editor and properties of the template, turn off volumes. Okay. There we go. So there's my bridge abutments. Okay, so I already dealt with superelevation on the left. Let's see how that turned out. I'm going to go into my plan window here, and I look up here. My superelevation is 5.8 or 6. That's pretty much full super. And as I move along the alignment, it stays at full super and then starts to go down. Now watch how the left side works. We're down to minus 3.3 already. On the right, it's still 4.8. And as I continue along, before I get to the bridge, it's down to minus 2.2. And then when I'm on the bridge, well, that's the one just before the bridge, minus 2. And on the bridge, minus 2. Perfect, so they match. Now let's do the right-hand side. So you can see the right-hand side on the bridge should also be -2, but if we go back to the road, it's sitting at plus 3.8. So there's a bit of a problem there. We need to fix that. Go into the home ribbon, assign by range. We use this all the time for assigning templates, materials, site preparation like stripping, and of course overrides. So here's the recipe for the left-hand side. Now let's just do the same on the right. So superelevation right. The middle of the curve is at station 120. So I'm going to add a 119, just before station 120. Keep it as default. This is curve super. Okay. And it's 6%. I checked it earlier. Now I'm going to make a new one, and this is going to be explicit. This number is wrong. The default here is showing -2, but that's the default for the template, not for the curve. So I did have to look it up, and the number I want is -6. Oh, I forgot to change the station number. Let me try that again. Okay. So that's the transition from the curve to the explicit, and there's no change. They're both -6. And finally, I need the one near the bridge. The bridge starts at station 140, so I'll change this to 140, and I'll put in -2 here. Okay, that's almost everything I need. One more thing, just in case there's another curve somewhere, I had better go back to the default, because otherwise we're going to get a transition from -2 all the way through to the end of the alignment. That's fine if there's no curves, but it won't work well otherwise. So I'll just duplicate that and put in, it doesn't matter, I could do this anywhere on the bridge, but I'll just put it at 141. That's on the bridge too, and go back to use default. Any override should have in it the range where there is no override. So the alignment start is default, star star. The range where the override starts is still default, and then the explicit override values, and finally it should go back to default just after the range of interest. And I think I made a mistake in my left side. So let's just look at super left. Yeah, see, I forgot to put in that last one. So I'm just going to duplicate this one, default, and put in station 141. Of course, if you wanted a transition there, you would put it further along. But seeing as they're the same value, transition could be of length 1 meter, and you won't see any changes. Okay, good. Okay, okay. Now you can see that the road cross-section is simply a crowned road. Just look at that in full screen here so you can see it really well, with -2% on both sides. And if we just step one cross-section ahead, we're in the bridge, and the crown is exactly the same. Let's do it differently this time. So I'm going to save this design. I'm quite happy with it. But the bridge has a vertical abutment perpendicular to the road. Let's see if we can make that a little more realistic. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a surface. The surface, here it is. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Sorry. Save as surface. When you export a road to the terrain module, you can create a 3D surface. Here's the way you set it up to do that. You need to have a boundary, surface limits, all cross sections, optional line work. I chose the edge of pavement and the edge of shoulder, as well as the ditch lines. These are just point codes. Point codes can be pulled right out of the template by hovering over the template. I included the center line, and this is the most important thing when you're making a surface that represents the roadway. You want to have surface limits turned on and this boundary checked here, and then offset 0. That will confine. There it is. So there's all the features. There's the shoulders that I chose to export explicitly. There's the ditch lines that I chose to export explicitly. And this is actually a surface. If you get your boundary wrong, you're going to have surface coming across all these concave edges. If you get your boundary right, it looks pretty good. Good. Okay. This is the road all by itself. There is no original ground, but it's still a useful thing to have. If I wanted to create a merged surface, I could join these two together. We can do that at the end, or we can do it now. There's actually a reason I can use that merged surface before I'm finished, so I'm gonna do that right away. Okay, so this is called Road with Bridges. Now I'm going to create a terrain from original ground. There's topo. This is original ground, and it is a 3D surface. Before I merge it in, I'm going to do a save as road plus topo. I've already got one. I'm just writing on top of it. And then I'm going to do the merge operation. So I can merge in the road with bridges I just created. I just took all the defaults there in the merge button. And it's deleted all the contours, which reminds me that I have to recalculate the surface. That should do it, yeah. Okay. Let's see what that looks like in 3D. Okay. So here's a surface that you would get if you built the road as specified by location. There's your vertical abutment and nothing between the two ends. So I probably should have said this right at the beginning. Anyone who's not familiar with RoadEng might think that we can design bridges, do the mechanical engineering, and the answer is no, we can't do that. Oh, by the way, 3D models are really good for finding glitches in your surface. Look at that. I obviously screwed up the right-hand side of my Superelevation assignment because I can see a kind of a ski jump in the road there on the right-hand side. So yeah, 3D models can be really valuable for finding glitches. I didn't see that in my plan. I didn't see it in my profile because I was looking at the center line, but I can sure see it in 3D. So how would I fix that? Well, I would go back to my location module, take a look at my overrides and see what the heck I did wrong. So I'm going to go to the home menu, assign by range, super right, and 119 minus 6. Oh, of course it's not minus 6, it's plus 6. It's on the right-hand side, it's on the outside of the curve. Yeah, so let's just modify that, take out the minus sign. Okay, recalculate. That fixes the problem here. I would have seen it if I'd stepped through the cross sections in this zone here. So that's one of the things I do all the time when I'm working with the software. Is like, next, watch the cross section. You know, Next point, next point, next point, and you can see now there's no step. It's going down smoothly. Good. So let's just re-export. The beauty of this save as to terrain is that it remembers. So this is the one I want to write over. It remembers all your settings, so you don't have to go through and do them again. So this is the merged surface. Okay, I'm just going to close that and export this. It's going to open for me. And I probably, if I'd looked carefully at the 3D in this one, I would have seen it too. I would have seen it down in here. Okay, this is good. And finally, let's open the Topo Road 1, no, Topo Tour. So again, I stress, when you're creating a merged surface, don't forget to do a save as, because you're going to mess up the surface you started with. This is Topo, but as soon as I do my terrain modeling merge and pick another surface to merge in here, in this case the roadway, it adds a bunch of data and it removes a bunch of data. So in this zone here, all the LiDAR data is gone. No LiDAR data, no extra random points inside that zone. It's all from the road. And then, of course, outside is the LiDAR. Good. So let's just recalculate that. And if I look at the 3D now, it's going to look way better. There's no ski jumps in there. Good. Okay, this is a useful terrain, which I will use later. Now, how on earth am I going to, let's start from scratch here. How am I going to design those abutments? Well, if I open just the road that's been exported, that's this one. There are some features in here that are very useful. So I'm going to get those features and I'm going to put them in a new terrain. So these roadways are nice because they show me where the edge of the shoulder is. And there's a cross section right at the edge here. Let's see if I can find it. Called Station 139.9. So that's the last cross section before the beginning of the bridge. I've selected it. It doesn't look like anything because it's what we call a loose feature or an unconnected feature. It's just a bunch of dots, but there's more than one dot in the feature, more than one point. And if you go through the points, Control N, you can see them all in there. Okay, that's one feature that I want. There's a similar one on the other side for the station right after, and then I want all these points as well. So let's just collect those up. Might be easier just to get more than we need and delete them later. So I'll do that. I'll select this one. Actually, yeah, this will work okay. Shift click, shift click, shift click. Got them. And then on this side, get these ones. And if I click here, there it is, station 180 is the one I want. Oh, 180.1 is the one I want. That one's back on the bridge. This one is in the roadway. Control-C copy. I could have deleted everything else and saved the file under a new name. There's lots of different ways to move features around, but I just did a Control-C copy and Control-V paste. There they are. There's all my features, and you can see now quite clearly what that cross-section thing looks like. So if I, everything else is connected, so I can just make those connected. There we go. There's my two cross sections. And I might want to give them different names. Actually, the name's pretty good, but I think I will give them different colors. Make them easy to find. How about navy? Yeah, solid's good. I like solid. Okay, okay. And they are modeled. Good, good, good. Now, these ones, they're great guides, but I don't want to put them in my surface. When you're grading things to create a new surface, generally the only things you want to have modeled are the graded features. So let's turn modeled off there. Don't forget to click apply. For a little while we had the software working where you could just change something and it would happen without clicking on an apply button. I trained myself to do that, and I'm still untraining myself. Anyway, click on apply. There we go. Now the only model features in here are this one and this one. Let's put the original ground in the background. Now there's two ways to do this. I can show the original ground and the roadway as separate background features, or I can just bring in the merged surface, this one, road plus topo. And that's what I'm gonna do here. There it is. And it's all in the background. I can't select these features, but now I can do some amazing things. Okay, so this feature goes that way. That means that the right-hand side is the direction I want to grade out. So I'm going to go to my grading tool. I'm going to grade to the right. There's my surface I'm grading to. Slope, I don't know. How about downward slope of 2 to 1? I might want to put in a few extra points along here, so let's put one in every 2 meters. This will create a nice surface and calculate volumes. I'm not sure if it knows how to create a boundary when you grade one side of a line, so let's turn that off. And actually, let's turn all of these off. I'm not going to get a good surface right away. Let's take a look and see what we get. Oh, something went wrong. To file, to the right. Oh, maybe it's sitting on the ground here. That would be clear if I zoomed in. Oh yeah, I think it's sitting right on the ground, and so it's not grading out. Let's change the surface that I'm grading to. So instead, I'm going to grade down to original ground without the road in it. That's what I wanted to see. Do the same over here. And I think right now I've got a nice 3D surface. No, I don't have a surface there at all. Okay, what happens if I create a surface? Yeah, see, it's joining up all those 3D points. I need to make some boundaries. If I was only doing one abutment, kind of trying a few things while you're watching here, if I was only doing one abutment, I might get away with just doing the boundary and, whoopsie, the boundary and, there we are. Let's try it. Yeah, it still includes over there. It doesn't know how to make a boundary when you're grading one side of a line. You have to make it explicit. Now, I did that already, and I'll show you the results. So you can see here, oh, I've got a whole bunch of stuff in there that I don't want to look at. There we go. That this doesn't look good. I've got, whoopsie. I've got surface here, which is good, and I've got surface here, which is good, but I've also got surface in the middle. It's showing me an elevation there. I don't want that. So what I did is I spent a little bit of time and I created a couple of boundaries that go around each of these zones. And now I get a much better surface. This is a lot different because I went into here and I turned on some options. Let's just put it back the way it would have been if we had just started from scratch. Let's take that out. I think the default is just to show features, like so. Yeah. So now you can see that my two abutments are working well. So how did I do that? I went back to the one that's no good, and I built a boundary feature. So let's see how I did that. This one. I've got a nice feature here that should be a boundary. It's called SS for slope stake. It's the toe of all of my grading there. And then I've got the original cross-section here. So what I do is I select those features, duplicate them. I can use Control-D or Control-C, Control-V. Change their name to boundary. And make sure they're not part of the model. They don't even need elevations, in fact. They do need to be tin boundary. Surface volume boundary is nice too. We'll see why in a second. And probably want to change line type and color, just so they don't get mixed up. Apply. Now that feature is a tin boundary, so if I recalculate the surface, remember the surface here is all mixed up. It's, I got a bunch of stuff in the background I don't want, but you can see that I've got surface going between the two abutments. But if I recalculate now, it only does this one. The other one is not calculated. Well, let's create a boundary on there too. So I'll go over to the other side, do exactly the same thing. Select this. Select this. Control, well, let's use duplicate this time. Control-D, duplicate. They're the same feature. They're two different features. I can move them around now. That's something I don't want to do, but I'll call them boundary. And good. Oh, one more thing. Join. Did I do Control-J last time? I can't remember. It seemed to work nicely anyway. No, I didn't. Oh, weird. Okay. So that is SS. That's the wrong one. I want boundary. And then here, Shift-click, boundary. Control-J, join, make them into one polygon. That's better. And now recalculate the surface one more time. And we also get volumes. So when I change the property there to surface volume boundary, I'm also enabling the software to calculate volumes independently. So the surface that I've just created, the two abutments, is being subtracted from the original ground topo, and we're going to calculate the volumes. Okay, so that's the volumes button up there, and here they are. And the original ground is topo. Sometimes these are backwards, and then you get a bunch of cut when you thought you were going to get fill. So that needs to be set up, and there we are. So it's showing me boundary 0, boundary 3. Take me a second to figure out which is which. That it's all fill and cubic meters there. Great. So that's one way of creating an abutment. We're almost done here. Sorry, I'm taking a little longer than I expected. The other way to create an abutment is to build a polygon and grade that out. Now that's the one that I wanted to grade to the merged surface. So let's just take a look at that. I'm going to open up my road with bridge terrain. Actually, didn't I already create this one back? Oh, this is the one I want to fix up, right? Oh, I think I lost the one I was working with. Okay, I'll start again. Bears repeating. It's easy to forget stuff. So here's my export from location, and I thought it was interesting to pick up the station 139, right? The one at the beginning, just before the bridge. This one, station 180.1, just after the bridge, and then these four here. Shift, click, click, click. That one, that one, that one, that one. Okay, Control C, start from scratch. Control V. These I do not want to have in the model. And then my two sections, this one and this one. Good. Let's put the merge surface in the background here. The merge surface is road plus topo. Now these are lines, but I think I'd like to make them into polygons. So what I'm going to do is just kind of took me a while to sync this up. I hope this will save you guys some time later. I'm going to join these together to make some guides. So I'm just click, shift click, Control J join. Click to select, shift click to select another one, Control J join. Okay, so these have well-defined elevations. And they are where the bridge would go. I could have exported the bridge features as well, but I didn't. So this is just kind of a quick shortcut. Now, I'm going to select my edge of road feature, and I'm going to make it into a polygon. So the river, let's put the river in the background here. There's the river. Let's move the roadway out like so. Notice that I'm snapping to those guides. If I just create a point out here somewhere, it keeps the elevation of the previous point. But if I create a point and I snap it to an existing 3D feature, it picks up the elevation of the 3D feature. Now I've got a polygon, and the polygon is going which way? Okay, it's going counterclockwise, so right is on the outside. This edge is the roadway. This edge is also pretty much the roadway because I snapped it to those guides, and now I can grade it outwards. To merge surface, and let's do the slope minus of 2 to 1 again. I don't need contours when I do that. Okay, there we go. Oops, 2 to 1 is probably a little steep if I'm going to put it there. It's falling down into the river. Or I can move my feature back. Let's start by changing the slope. So the nice thing about grading is that you don't have to worry about deleting all these extra features that get created. All you need to do is select the graded feature, which is in this case a polygon, and modify the grading properties. So for example, if I wanted to change the shape here, I can just go in here, move the points around, like maybe there, and there. That one looks okay. Yeah. And then regrade. Gets rid of all those old graded features and puts in new graded features. Yeah, just to quickly do that on the other side. So I'm going to select the cross-section feature. It's called station 80.1, 80.1. Edit it by adding new points. Put those points on the correct elevation. I could have typed in the elevation too. You can do that here. Modify selected feature coordinates. You can actually type elevations in there if you want. I can close that. Yeah. Hopefully that picked up the right elevation. And now let's grade that one out. Fortunately, you can't just copy the. I mean, if I'd copied this feature from one side to the other, it would have kept the grading properties. But because I started from a new feature here, I have to redo them. So again, I want to go down to the original ground. I'm not sure whether it's left or right. Let's assume that it's left. There we go. Now this feature here automatically is a tin boundary. I can change it to a surface volume boundary. Similarly, this feature here is automatically a tin boundary. When you create a graded feature from a polygon, last time I used a line, this time I'm using a polygon, it automatically creates a tin boundary. And so when you calculate the surface, it's automatically excluding stuff from outside of those boundaries. So there is no surface anywhere except in the zone that I just calculated. And the volumes can be done with polygons. Let's just look at these this time. This one is called SS0 and this one's called SS1. So when I calculate the volumes, and I can change their names too if I want to. I could call this west. And call this one east. Did I remember to click apply on the last one? Nope. Wait a minute. Yeah, see, I forgot to click apply. Anyway, now if I do the volume calculation and use this volumes by polygon, which is referring to surface volume boundaries, I get 2 volumes. And of course, the volumes are bigger than the last time because I've got a little extra zone in here. This area in here that I created. There we go. Looks good. Now, this is all the engineering work. Now, for output, I could go on for another half an hour, but I won't. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to create a quick cross-section here to show you the concepts. Now that these have all been created, I can get rid of this background, which is the merged surface, and put in all the independent surfaces. So there's road with bridge, there's topo, there's the foreground, which is abutments, and then river is just some line work. It doesn't have volumes in it, or surfaces. Now if I draw anything, anywhere, and make a cross-section, so let's draw a draped feature. So draped is modeled with no elevations, and call it section. like so. This would be a long section, right? I'm going along the alignment, so it's profile. Now I'm getting this warning because the foreground doesn't have any surface outside of the abutments. This is not a problem. I don't have to look at that again because when you create a profile, it automatically includes, let's turn off scale lock and put in a more reasonable scale. There we go. There's my bridge design. Okay. So the abutments are in pink here, and my draped feature goes over them and then falls off the model right there. But it still shows you all the other surfaces. So let's just go through the surfaces. In the profile window, we have in the background the river. We can take that out. We don't want to see that. It's just a bunch of lines, and they're not even on the screen. So I'm going to turn off profile display. Road with bridges, that's the designed road. Shall we change the alignment or the line type? Let's change the line type here, make it red, so it's clear. And finally, we have topo, and my favorite line for original ground is this one. There we go. So that's the original ground. The red actually goes down here, but we can't see it. And then this is the abutment here. And I can put a cross section anywhere. So that's profile number 1. Let's create another cross section going somewhere else. I'm just going to duplicate that. Control C, Control V, move it like so. So it's not exactly a cross section. I want to see all these things as it goes through them, and then make a new profile window. Where'd it go? Oh, I see. It just opened that one. Sorry. I need to do new window, profile. There it is. Okay. And this profile that's the 3D. 3D you can make pretty nice too. Is the one that's going through there, right? So you can see as I move along my profile, you can see the cursor moving there. There's where it's over the new abutment that I made. There's where it's over the old road that I exported, and here's where it's just over the ground. And of course, you can make multiple profiles, and you can label them and so on. Good. Well, that's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry I took longer than I expected, but it was a new way of doing bridge abutments. I made some polygons, and I kept the old roadway, and I just made them really close to each other so that together they make a continuous surface. The old way of doing it, you can watch in the, it's not necessarily any worse than this method. You can watch in our YouTube videos. And there are some examples on the site too in our knowledge base.